Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the Brownstone Worldwide, that is. I'm Paulette, and I'm a part of Brownstone Worldwide here in the Brownstone Worldwide studios, and we're here again today for another amazing interview for the November issue of Brownstone Living Magazine. Today, we have one of the members of Arrested Development here with us today, Mr. Rasa Don, artist extraordinaire, vocalist, singer, all around amazing gentleman, drummer, dancer, you name it, he's done it. And he's here to talk to us about hip hop, the life of hip hop, what it has become for him, and everything else in between. So without further ado, we're going to go ahead and bring up Rasa Don. We're going to be having some in-depth conversation. Thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you for your time. How are you? You're muted. I'm going to go ahead and unmute your mic. Okay, unmute yourself.
I had to unmute it on my side. Sorry.
Okay, no problem.
Yeah, good stuff.
Good stuff. So welcome to the Brownstone. Thank you so much for taking time out of your busy day to come and hang out with us. It's been a long time, brother. Been a long time. And this is a blessing. So for those of you all who do not know, I have not seen Rasa Don. When was the last time we physically saw each other? Like we talked, but it's been some years. Let's just put it like that.
Actually, it probably was on tour.
Wow.
That would have been the last time I saw you, actually.
Yeah.
On stage, actually, not even like backstage.
I know, like boom, like 1 minute you're here, the next minute you're gone, and life moves on. But here we are, and we are older, we're wiser, we're in these different places in our lives, and a lot has happened with hip hop. And one of the things that I always like to ask all of the folks that I've been interviewing here recently is, what was the impact of that moment in time for you? Did you think that what we were doing, what was happening with Arrested Development, did you think that it would turn out to be as historic as it has come to be? Did you consider that when you became a part of the group and started touring and hanging out and doing all those things?
So it probably sounds like a lot of people probably would say, yeah, right, whatever. But yeah, I did know. I knew from because I look at it just to follow me here. So the minute I decided in my mind that I wanted to be something, whatever that was, and it was, at the time it was an artist.
Yeah.
I kind of was like, I kind of stayed with myself and followed my older self on that journey.
Mm-hmm.
So I used to do this thing where when I used to go hang out with my cousins and we'd ride bikes like super far and different stuff like that, I would always think about later being home.
Yeah.
That was like a practice I had really early on. I would think about later being home, but what I was going to do when I was home. So I would go be in this day, but I would visually see myself back at my house. So when I got in the band and it started to take wings, I visually saw myself older, being able to talk about it, watching it from a different perspective. And the reason to that too is also because as an artist, you're constantly following people's work.
Yeah.
From when they're like young, they're like teenagers, when they're like, maybe 10 or 11 years old. And then when by the time you see the work, it's like, oh, look at all this stuff that they created. But that was over like a period of time in their lives from like 10 to 81 or whatever, you know what I'm saying? That timeline in between is your actual work. It's not the moment you're doing it. That's not just it. It's like it extends itself so much forward,
Wow. So you knew, and so in your head, you were you had already lived it, and so you were on the other side. Oh, that's heavy. We could have a whole conversation about that.
So people learn. Okay, here's another way to look at it. Like
Okay.
before I was in the band, I was an artist,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And I used to sell pictures to my family. They would buy like my artwork,
Mm-hmm.
get it framed and put it up on their wall. And then you forget about it. You're just like, okay, that was a period when I felt like being an artist. That wasn't
Right.
like that for me.
Mm-hmm.
I like coming back and then you can see your artwork from like high school on somebody's wall framed.
Mm. Yeah.
That's telling the story already to me. So I'm thinking
Yeah.
about my career. I'm thinking like at some point I'm gonna be the old rocker.
Mm.
You know what I'm saying? Like when I
Yeah.
can't do this, I'm gonna be the old rocker. So I
Right.
I, I saw this from an artist perspective, and so from that perspective, I feel like I've been kind to my older self.
I
You
love
know
that.
what I mean? You have to be kind to your older self because you'll get there eventually.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I love that. I like the way that you're looking at that in its perspective. So you knew when it was happening what it was going to be because you had already kind of sort of
Yeah.
lived it, right? So you were on the other side experiencing it. And so the accolades, the Grammys, the music, the Soul Train Music Awards, NAACP awards, and all of these things and all of that. And so now here you are.
And the non-good times. Got to put that
And
in there too.
what was that again? I'm sorry.
And the non-good times. It
And the
all comes,
good times. Yeah,
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 all of that comes with the territory, you know?
absolutely. It does. And talking about that, because see, the truth is that it was rocky, right? We're young, don't know any better. A lot of us don't have, the support of people in our family or in our circle that understand the music business at all. And back then, the music industry was so much more, I think personally, for people that had no idea about it or any support, quite volatile. And so when we walked into the industry or into, what was happening, for me, it was rose colored glass. I was like, oh, wow, this is so cool. So I didn't think like you did. I wish someone had given me that insight. I probably, would have done or fared better. Right. So in all of that, in the good times and the bad times, let's talk about the lessons that you learned. What were some of the lessons that you picked up along the way?
Well, there's a lot of lessons I'm still learning, but the biggest lesson probably is just that it's a business.
Mm,
You know, like it's we're all excited about doing some art or singing some music or putting your soul down in some way, shape, or form to be viewed by other people. But the reality is it's a business.
yeah.
And you start to see very quickly it's a business when it starts taking shape in different ways that could be to your advantage or to your non-advantage. At the
Mm-hmm.
end of the day, everybody, if you know business and you're willing to learn business, you'll realize, oh, that was business move, or this
Yeah.
is business. You know what I'm saying? The creative side, that just comes to you naturally if
Yeah.
you're creative. Most people, like we're all creatives, but some part of that being able to articulate head to eye, head to arm, head to leg, being able to, pull a A1 performance off whenever you need it. That might just come easy to you, but
Yeah.
the business side might be a whole nother side. And when you start thinking about it from a business aspect, that's why you see certain people make it, certain people don't.
Mm-hmm.
Some people, you learn it later and you realize, oh, if I become a better business person, I'm gonna survive this game.
Mm-hmm.
If
Mm-hmm.
I just stay creative, then I'm gonna be the dopest artist. That's it. You
Right.
know what I'm saying? You can see through the times now that like we've taught a lot of like the newer generation how to do business now. So they're all about getting their money. Whereas for
Right.
us, it was a little bit harder to get our money.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other thing I often think of in terms of lessons I learned is that it's because it's a business. We created this business, and when you're creating something, it has a potential to be successful or non-successful, but there's a lot of like parts that constantly getting developed as you go along, you know.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
like when we look at hip hop now, we see this monster, we see this brand, but it wasn't always that. It was like while it was being thought about, we were the process of being.
Mm.
We were helping to put things in place that could later be beneficial to our older selves. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
Right.
And that's how I got to that. It's like, okay, you know, stuff didn't work out totally the way I wanted it to in the beginning, but I don't, I appreciate this time now more than ever because all of the tools I feel like I need to be successful, I have.
I
You know what
love
I'm
that.
saying? And
Yeah.
now I know how it works too.
Mm-hmm.
And I probably can benefit now more than I could back then. You know what I'm saying? Because
Absolutely.
then I was learning still. Now I'm not. Now I'm a little more. you know, a lot more mature where I can actually appreciate it, and I could appreciate it with family. You know what I'm
Right.
saying,
Right.
and so forth.
I love that. So in all of this learning and the things that you have picked up along the way, um, you are not just Rasa Don from Arrested Development. And that's the beauty of it. So like a lot of people don't know that you are an artist, like for real, for real. So let's
Hmm.
talk about that. What do you do um, right now? What are some of the things that you're working on right now and focusing on?
Okay, so right now what I'm working on is a project. It's called Profit Heart. At
Hmm.
least it's a art over dialogue. That's one thing.
Hmm.
Um, that's I'll come back to that. But
Sure.
and what I do though, what I do is I help to rebrand like corporate and entertainment
Mm.
branding.
Okay.
I've done stuff like to help rebrand Fela Kuti when they brought it to Atlanta.
Hmm.
Um, Knitting Factory, which is an older club brand. They have like
Hmm.
multiple clubs. They had one in Hollywood. I'm not sure if it's still there. Spokane, New York.
Hmm. Hmm.
Um, Bringing a lot of like that old, uh, like if you see the older posters from back in the day.
Hmm.
I helped to bring some of those posters to digital,
Okay.
where they can like it's recreated to be on like uh, I don't know, brochures and
Hmm. Hmm.
T-shirts and other items that could be sold. You know,
Hmm.
so I work a lot in the branding
Yeah.
and branding, animation, and all of it is in my backyard. You know, AI, that's my newest thing.
Hmm.
Um, so that's pretty much it. Like, but this again, coming back full circle to the profit heart piece that I'm doing is it was my dedication to it's kind of like a dedication to hip hop, but
Mm.
for me it's I think about like ancestral of where we come from
Yeah.
and where we are now, and
Hmm.
I'm combining those two together
Hmm.
because in art it's hard to be like you can't be but so loud in art. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Kanye said it one time. It's like art is quiet. It's
Hmm.
you can be loud with it, but it's quiet for the most part. And so what
Right.
I've decided to do is take my performance side as an artist
Hmm.
and marry it with um, my visual side.
Yeah.
So normally when you see an artist, they're just kind of like quiet, laid back, and you see their work. But
Hmm.
since I'm a performing artist, I'm a little bit more Salvador Dali,
Yeah.
Matisse in your face kind
Right.
of artist. You know what
Love
I'm
that.
saying?
I love it. I love it. Okay. So when you're talking about all of these things, I'm hearing that your experience, and so this is just me seeing visually as you're talking and you're flowing into what you're doing now. The experience that you had as one of the members of Arrested Development has kind of helped you to see or to transition yourself from experience and so forth into what you're currently doing now, even though you were an artist before, right? And
Right.
I've seen your work and it's amazing. And so over the years, what you've done is you've done what most hip hop artists or artists overall have had to do. And it's a conversation that I've had with several folks about how the payment system in hip hop or just the music industry in general has changed because everything is digitized, because you've got Spotify and all of these others that are paying you 0.00000 to the nth degree 1 cent of your participation on a song or whatever. And no matter that it's getting trillions or billions of listens or whatever per month or whatever, by the time you get your royalty check, it's not what it used to be. And so what I'm learning from other artists is that having an additional skill is always a blessing, and to be able to grow with that. And so you've taken going into branding and taking your artwork and letting it work for you, I think is definitely something to be applauded, because most folks, unfortunately, end up broke and destitute when the lights go down. And
So can I say something?
go ahead.
The newer artists have learned this. They've learned this technique. So again, remember, we're in. So one thing I like to interject and say is that we have to, in hip hop or as artists, as performers and visual artists and performing artists, we have to interject ourselves in a different place in this thing.
We do.
And the way we were initially taught was like, hey, I'm a performance artist. I rap, I sing or whatever. I want to get on, and somebody's going to do my hair and they're going to do all of this stuff, right? Later on, when you find out it's a business and you learn how to keep, monetize yourself and put yourself in a continuous format that you can keep seeing the benefits from this thing while it's developing, is you are a brand. We all are a brand. Once you're in front of somebody multiple times and people are paying to see you or buying something from you, you've turned yourself into a brand. Absolutely. And so while the streaming and all that stuff is like coming together, and it's not doing what it's supposed to do, and I think a lot of it is still new. Yeah. And because it's new, we're getting to see how it's developed in a way that's beneficial and in a way it's not beneficial. But I think if we stay on top of it, it's gonna get better, because we're gonna make sure it gets better. The other thing is, I realize at least with the streaming, is that it's a system now that, like, so you can't look at your past for your revenue, because the way that the streaming works is like it's a machine, so you constantly putting the stuff in the machine. And the more stuff you put in the machine, you get a kickback. If you're waiting for the older stuff, you have to find a way to recreate a system that pushes that. Right. You understand what I'm saying? So like an older song is just going to do what an older song is going to do, right? And the way to bump up that older song is to perform it somewhere, right? Put it in a commercial, put it in. Added with other things that could send it viral. You know what I'm saying? So it becomes a lot of hands-on administration work to actually move this stuff. I've talked to artists that all they do is just drop albums, and like, why are you dropping albums? Like, nobody's paying attention to this stuff, and how much volume does it have? And the first thing I hear is like, because it's streaming now and I get paid off of these songs, even though they might not be popular. I'm like, oh, it makes all the sense. That makes sense. Like, if you're going to be a writer, you got to keep writing. You know what I mean? Absolutely. It's unfortunate because there's so many artists out there now, and that doesn't mean anything to me. It could be a million gazillion artists, but the thing I know about artists is like a lot of people aren't taking it. There's a lot of mimics, but a lot of people don't have, like, they don't understand format. They don't understand beginning, middle, end. You know what I'm saying? How to get in there, get out. Like, all that stuff matters.
It does, absolutely. And I'm hearing it a lot on some of the new songs that are coming out, to literally to the point where I don't want to listen, but I have, because I have a 16-year-old kid and he's constantly reminding me about, mother, this is amazing. What do you think of this song? And I'm thinking, there's no beginning, there's no middle, there's no end. It's just the same drop over and over and over. And I think you all think that this is good music. So let me ask you this. When did music change? When did hip hop? What happened? How did we end up over here? And the question that I have asked others, and I'd love to hear your point on this, is when we're talking about this hip hop that we're in now, this I don't know what it is, right? Because we came in when hip hop was really about this movement, right, of just community and positivity and so forth. And yeah, you had your gangster rappers and stuff like that, but they and then themselves had their own community happening. Now I don't know what's happening. Like, you got people over here that might as well just slide down the pole. I'm not sure. So feedback on that, number one. And how do you as a more mature hip hop artist support that or not, or say to these young folks, or do we say to these young people, tone it down, adjust or change, right?
So I think a couple things happen, and this isn't dear our generation. It's like nothing changed. Mm-hmm. And if you think about it from an aspect of, so here you go. As an artist, there's always the change of periods. There's a blue period. There's a red period. There's the dark period. There's all these moods that happen as an artist, and in that mood, you tend to get off the track. So like, the early days of hip hop, we experienced a certain thing, and that was the mood at the time. And when that mood changed, we also changed. We got off. Right. We probably weren't listening as much, kind of tuned out, maybe having kids, maybe traveling, maybe going through some stuff. Well, while you're in that mood, the mood still continues. Yeah. The art form still continues to live and go on. It just doesn't always sound the same when you get back on. You start listening again. It's like, oh, what is this stuff they're doing now? And it's all different. Right. It's all relevant to the time, though. You know what I'm saying? And see, that's why I say when we look at it from an artist perspective, you see it's all relevant. Either you go with the time or you miss out, right? Wow. The time is like, as a true creator, you'll always be able to put something in the landscape because you understand life. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? That's how I look at it. It's like, so no matter what the art form is doing, I can adapt and adjust myself, find a piece of it, and include myself in it. Yeah. You can't articulate to somebody who only knows how to speak this way that you need to change something. Right. That's not going to happen. Yeah. What you have to do is like create what you're creating, and then hopefully it's hot enough where they'll gravitate towards that. Right. When people gravitate towards you, now you can offer something. You can offer your suggestion. You may actually get some respect. You know what I'm saying? But that's the only way to approach it. Like the kids, their music is totally different, but it's a communication they understand. Yeah. And so either you're going to be out of the circle, not understanding, or you're going to figure out what the language is and be able to talk to them. It's very simple. But as an artist, we just, it's like, oh, our music sounds like this and their music sounds like that. Yeah. You can go and play all of this stuff in one club, and you're going to have all these people, like, certain people are going to gravitate to this and certain people are going to gravitate to that. And as far as the DJ is concerned, that's all he cares about. Right. Just make sure everybody's good. Oh, the old people came and danced for this. Oh, the new kids came to dance for that. Oh, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
They capitalism just wants it all. It doesn't care.
No.
You know what I'm saying? And that's where the business comes in at. So there's so many forms to this that, like, again, for me, that I've been able to like train myself and understand it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I say to like the more older generation, if you want to say more mature generation, don't be so connected to it. When I say connected to it, is like anytime you're connected to anything, it just
Mm-hmm.
this allows you to be able to like see it as it is. When you
Absolutely.
disconnect from it,
Right.
you might start seeing some beauty in it, some understanding, something relatively that connects with you that
Mm-hmm.
you can like, oh, I could talk to them because I understand this aspect of it.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't understand James Brown when he came out. You
Mm-mm.
know, folk thought he was like, the parents in that generation thought, what is this quick music you listening to? You know what I'm
Right.
saying?
Yeah, I got you. And that makes sense. Absolutely. So you're saying that it's just a sign of the times, it's the flow, it's the ebb, and it will change again. And we will see that. I believe before I leave this planet, we're absolutely going to see it again. Now, where it's going to swing, I'm not so sure. However, I will say this. I'm going to put my 2 cents in here. And I will say now, there are some times that it's just some things that we just need to learn how to just kind of just watch. Now, I say that because there's an artist that's out right now, and she's gotten a lot of attention.
Hmm.
And I'm not so sure if I'm okay with the amount of attention, but what she's doing is she's making money. So she's come out with this line of lip gloss, right? And so I think it's a balance between like what we were talking about earlier with how streaming has taken over, and this is how you have to the things that you have to do to continue to get paid, right? So she's created this other way of getting paid for herself, and she created this line of lip gloss with the most interesting of names. So interesting, I'm not so sure if I want to repeat some of them,
I
right?
think
So
I think I can get it from here.
yeah. Ooh. And so from what I'm understanding, she's performing, she's doing all the things. And here's a question that I have that I think is important. And as hip hop continues to change and as the music industry itself changes, one of the things that I think is important to note is how creative that we have had to become as artists to generate revenue for ourselves. So, do you think, number one, of course, it's a very good thing. However, what does that do for you as an artist who has created so many good works over the years, and people can listen to it for 0.000014% or whatever it is, a cent of a cent? How do you continue to drive the efforts that you need in order to continue to generate the streams of income that you need? Right? So like this artist has done her thing, and then you got some that are going into reality TV, and then you got some that are traveling the world to keep the bills paid. What do you say to those of us that are out there that are trying to still figure this thing out now that the lights have gone out for some?
Again, you just said it. The girl, like whoever the girl is, the artist is doing the lipstick.
Mhm.
Like, if you think about it now, like you probably can't name an artist that don't have some liquor or some gum or some hat or some sneaker or something. It's
Right.
like early on, people like Russell Simmons and Puffy, with Sean John and Fat Farm and all of the brands, they were
Mhm.
showing you early on that it was gonna be more than just music.
Yeah.
And if you know hip hop, the
Mhm.
real hip hop is DJ, dancing,
Yes.
MCing,
Mhm.
graffiti.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? It's like all of these elements. And so when you think about all the elements of hip hop, it doesn't necessarily mean that you're just going to be um, putting lyrics over the top of songs. It's going to
Mhm.
be art over dialogue, like
Mm.
Prophet Heart. It's going to be stuff like, you know, podcasts. It's
Yes.
going to be magazines. It's going to be all of these elements that initially we were all involved in, but we weren't the catalyst at the time. And so now people have magazines. Now people have soaps. They have, schools. They have all of these different elements, and that's still hip hop. Hip
It
hop
is.
is like, you know, um, speak your voice however your voice is trying to translate. You just turn
Mhm.
that into something that
Mhm.
is that can help you in your community.
Right.
Once you find a audience,
Right.
that's it. You know what I'm saying? Once you find
Mhm.
your audience, that's it. And so I think that's what we see a lot of. It's like, how can these artists sell stuff or do these things? It's because they found an audience.
Yeah.
The social media has given all of us a the ability to have our own platform
Mhm.
without having to just lock into one thing. Like the raunchiest of raunchy finds an audience. The
Absolutely.
the extremist finds an audience. Everybody has an audience, so it's like you just really have to think about how to capitalize on your audience,
Yeah.
and then that's your community right there.
It
It's
is.
not the same as being on stage anymore where you have to like travel from city to city.
Mm.
It's like now you and I are in each other's backyard by
Absolutely.
just being, doing a podcast. And
Mhm.
so there's all of these ways to approach it. And so ultimately at the end of the day, I say is like, don't be afraid to reinvent yourself. You know what I'm
Mhm.
saying? Like, just even on here, you could be anybody. You
Right.
know what I mean? I could
Yep.
walk off the camera, come back with a shaved head and some glasses, and have a whole different message. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
it's like if you lock all into your head, it's gonna seem like a short road and the end of it all. But
Mhm.
that's why you hear a lot of people saying, "Oh, I'm about to retire." Um, it's because they can't think of what else to do. An
Yeah.
artist doesn't retire; artists die. You know what I
Mm.
mean? It's like you're just gonna keep reinventing yourself in multiple ways, and don't limit yourself for what you can do. Like um, when the pandemic happened, when we were unable to move, I taught myself how to play guitar,
Mhm.
um, and I also taught myself how to be a tattoo artist.
Wow.
So it's like studying and taking time and putting the energy into it, you
Mhm.
eventually come up with something. Because
Right.
the process of success is just consistency. It's not
Absolutely.
the talent.
Yeah.
The talent has nothing to do with it. It's like
Mhm.
talent is one thing, but if you're consistent with anything, you'll get something. And so I
Absolutely.
always look at it like that. That's how I look at it for me. It's like because at the end of the day, when you're not performing anymore, maybe you're not as popular or something is not jumping off, it's like, well, what can I do? Like
Mhm.
who am I?
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
who I was before all of this was an artist. I
Yes.
can make something out of nothing. And,
Mhm.
after a while, I'm going to have your attention with it.
Right.
And then
Right.
that's going to be my new thing. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Um, that's just pretty much how it goes. And the other thing I say in terms of being an artist is that when we get older, we're in our, I call it the, what period? Uh, this is the period where now I get to talk to people, share the knowledge,
Mhm.
um, share my stories,
Yeah.
close the doors that they shouldn't go in, and
Mm.
point them to these doors that they should go in. This
Mhm.
is my thesis. I was trying to say. It's like when you're leaving college and you got to put it all together to make sense of it. This is
Mhm.
this is that for me, and as it pertains to hip hop and art. It's like now I get to talk to people about what I'm doing and who I've become when before I was creating who I
Mhm.
was and what I was
Mhm.
doing.
Mhm. Mhm. Okay. Okay. And so now, speaking of what you are doing, you have Profit Heart, and outside of the branding, what is that? Talk about that for us, please.
What is Profit Heart?
Mhm. Yep.
It's again so the way I grew up was my dad's a pastor.
Mhm.
So I grew up being the preacher's kid.
Yeah.
I never wanted to be a pastor. Nothing I would consider. But I did wind up being conscious, you know, studying a little five percenter,
Mm-hmm.
studying Rasta,
Mm-hmm.
studying Buddha.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Just studying like different things and and seeing how they work outside of Christianity.
Right.
Um, all of those things make up who I am ultimately.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? So at the end of the day, I have this inside of me, but then like some stuff it won't it never related to me because of the way I grew up.
Right.
So I just kind of stick to what I'm used to and what I know,
Mm-hmm.
and I kind of put that into the work. I feel like as an artist, just me being from an artist perspective, it's a little bit of an interesting time, a little dark in a sense, you know. And these are those moments when, as artists, we get to speak on it a little bit more.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Everything doesn't always feel like how it's perceived, and
Mm-hmm.
so I started using the African mask to cover my face
Mm.
as a ritual of protection and also creating wealth and these different dynamics. And
Right.
so I started reaching for different masks. And so once that hit me, I created a print
Mm-hmm.
from it.
Mm-hmm.
I did a photo shoot.
Okay.
I did a T-shirt.
Mm-hmm.
I started creating all of these things around this idea and this concept. And eventually I'll bring it to the surface. I'm just kind of sharing pieces and parts of it now,
Got it.
but
Got it. Got it.
um, what I want them to take from it is like, there's a quote that I got from Mansa Musa,
Mm-hmm.
and he says, we have two brains. One we think, and then one we know.
Mm. Oh wow.
So it's like in my younger self, I was thinking a lot. In my older self, I know. And
Wow.
so because I know, I do. You know what I'm saying? So from
Okay.
that perspective is that's pretty much how the show is. It's like those two sides of ourselves. So there's the mass and the
Mm-hmm.
non-mass.
Mm-hmm.
You think, and so sometimes you're thinking, but a lot of times you know.
Yeah.
Now if you act on it, that's different. But
Right. Right.
you know.
That's amazing. That's heavy. Like I'm gonna go and find Mansa Musa's sayings and musings and hang that up in my office
Yeah,
somewhere.
he's like one of the richest people, and he had like $700 billion. He would go through different towns and it would change the economy. That's how rich he
Wow.
was. I mean,
Holy.
nobody's that rich today. They trying, but I said 700 billion,
Yeah, that's insane. That's
not
crazy.
million, not
Billion.
2 billion, not 100 billion,
Seven.
700 billion. Think about that for a minute. What couldn't you do with that?
Just anything. Anything that you wanted. And for whomever. You know what I
And
mean?
so I adopted that. Like, that's the energy I'm bringing to myself. I'm
Yeah.
like, these quotes and this different, because think about this too, like the wealth that we have right now,
Yeah.
we are so overlooking it. Think about it again. The wealth that you have right now,
Mm-hmm.
you're so overlooked it because in the 90s, we did not have the ability to do this.
No.
We're still trying to figure out, like, when you had to send a master a reel of music just to get somebody to do a collab with you, you're talking about these reels that had to transfer with the mailman,
Yep.
export to New York, get it there maybe about a week or 2 weeks. Sometimes they had to go overseas. Now we
Mm-hmm.
could just get online,
Create it.
create a link, and actually do the song right here. So that right there is priceless.
It
And
is.
so when things started changing, immediately you hear everybody go, man, stuff's changed. I don't know how we're gonna. I was in a field day. I was like, oh my God, this is the greatest time for artists right now
Mm.
because we're no longer have to wait for this third party to be able to
Right.
show what you're capable of doing. That's why the kids are, you see the kids blowing up and you have 21-year-old millionaires and billionaires out there is because they've taken the platform in a way that might be annoying to you
Right.
and they've made it work for themselves because they have millions of kids that understand the language that is not spoken that we don't understand. And but those people wind up spending, they'll spend, they're the swipe generation. They'll swipe in a minute. Oh, you got a new thing? Swipe.
Yep, you
Let me
got
get
it.
that. You know what I'm
Yep,
saying?
yep.
Oh,
You're
you got some
bringing
new lipstick? Swipe.
life. I love it. I love it. You're right. Wow, you've helped me to get a different perspective today. I'm
But we're
excited.
home. But you know, we're home. Like the older generation is somehow like looking and going, "I'm not gonna do that.
Hmm.
I'm not gonna join that. Why are they talking like that?"
Right.
You know, we got the mute button. We got the leave button. You don't have to stay for any of this.
No, you can just go like deuces. I'm out. Right. You're right. You're absolutely right about that. So the industry, the world has changed. Hip hop has changed. And the flow of all of it is necessary, I believe.
And it's going to keep changing.
It
It's
is.
going to keep changing. Right now,
Mhm.
we're in a huge change.
Yeah.
Let me tell you, just I think I feel like I, you know, I always feel like I've said this stuff before, but just not here.
Yeah.
But when the pandemic happened, that was the largest change that we experienced.
Yes.
And a lot of us didn't see it as change, maybe, but
Mhm.
it was the largest change in your life that you've experienced in this time.
Right.
You experienced a time when everybody that you knew was home at the same time. You don't
Hmm.
know that time in your life. You don't remember a time like that. Nobody does. We're
No.
all home at the same time. We start to
Mhm.
realize like who we were. The
Yep.
minute you have a chance to be quiet, to be with people you think you love or care about,
Hmm.
and have to actually sit for some hours with yourself, a lot
Yeah.
of people can't take it.
No.
They can't take it.
Yep.
So it shows you like it shows you that it showed me that, you know, like my groundation and my foundation is partly rooted in meditation. It showed me like, wow, like, okay, this is I'm having a ball right now just because I can
Right.
sit in front of the computer every day and just create content and
Yeah.
somebody else is going crazy.
Hmm.
They can't be in their house for two minutes. You
Right.
know what
Well,
I'm
they have
saying?
to
So
put themselves at that.
some areas worked and I just started looking at like an older generation like, wow, we some people really need to snap out of it. Like
Right.
they're not gonna make it. They're
Mm.
not gonna make it if you can't adjust to what's happening.
Right. And in this flow and everything that's happening right now, people now have that choice because what that lockdown did was it changed the I believe the trajectory of what could have actually been worse globally for a lot of us. And so there's always the good in the middle of the darkness. And so we have altered how we work. We have altered how we generate our revenue. And now we have the advent of AI. And as you said, now I can create at home on a computer and do the things that I want to do. And you have a puppet, and I want to know his name, and how we can see more of him because I know that you share him sometimes on your social media, and
Oh yeah, yeah.
yeah, so we talked about your friend. I'm going to call him your friend because he wears a cap. He's clearly a brother, and so let's talk about him. Does he have a name?
Yeah, his name is actually Neon Parks, and that was my other um so I've always I won't say I've always done puppetry, but I've always been able to like if I can see it, I can create it
Mm-hmm.
pretty much. And
Mm-hmm.
so I had another show that Neon came from, and it was the show it was the Biz Kids. When I used to work at a Cartoon Network, I was creating this show, um, a brother and sister duo, and out of that came neon. So I'd already designed it, and then I was like, oh, I could do something with this.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Again, during the pandemic time, I was like, wow, I want to create content, but I don't want to be sitting in front of the computer,
Right.
showing myself, talking, doing this. I was like, let me get a puppet. I found a puppet, and I started to work with him. And just from all of the things that I do, I was, again, that's where the magic came because you know, I do background, so I'm a background artist.
Yeah.
I do layout and editing, so I'm
Mhm.
doing the editing. I do production, so all of the elements that I need to create a show, I have at my fingertips. And so that's where Neon Parks came from. Initially, he was uh, I started doing putting it together in the studio because it was going to be a whole cast.
Mhm.
But during the pandemic, we had some hiccups
Mhm.
because we shouldn't be around each other. So I started to just make it for pretty much for like Instagram,
Okay.
Instagram and fan base. So
Mhm.
yeah, that's where Neon Parks came from, and he's kind of like my alter ego in the sense
Mhm.
that he has famous friends. He's an artist. He's everywhere,
Yeah.
um, and yeah, he just kind of pops in and pops out.
Right. I love it. I love it. And I like the way that he does that because he's almost incognito, but he isn't. And he wears his cap and kind of does his thing. So or Scully, is that a skull cap that he's wearing? But
Yeah,
he's
it's a
a laid back kind of guy. Real
yeah,
cool.
he's a again, he's like that he's kind of like my young MTV energy,
Mm-hmm.
you
Mm-hmm.
know, that
Yeah.
whenever I'm working with him, I always think of MTV like that, like, hey, right in your face, kind of like,
Yeah.
what's up, 21 years old, when stuff you just having the time of your life, you
Yeah.
clueless about stuff still,
Mm-hmm. Huh. Yeah, tell me about it. Seems like I'm never getting out of that age. But listen,
It's a good
um,
time.
it's always a good time. Listen, got a quick question for you. And I've asked everyone this. First of all, I want to make sure that I got your name right and where people can find you on social media. Of course, is Rasa Don. Is that correct? Did we get it right?
Yeah.
Do I need to change it? Yep, there you are. You guys, go ahead and follow this brother right here, artist extraordinaire Rasa Don on social media. But then also, I've got a question for you. And I've been asking everyone this question. Rasa Don, when did you fall in love with hip hop?
Um, Let me see if I can remember the date. There's actually there's a date. There's a date. I don't know if it's it probably was in 85. I want to say like 85,
Mm-hmm.
85, 84, 85
Okay.
in Trenton, New Jersey.
Yeah.
And the people that don't know what Trenton is, it's like Trenton is between Philadelphia and New York.
Okay.
Um, PRT, Poor Righteous Teachers, from where I live at.
Okay.
Um, Wise, there's another Wise. He's from Trenton.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Actually, my man that plays with Jay Z, he's
Mm-hmm.
from Trenton. There's a lot of cats from Trenton.
Mm-hmm.
They just, oh, Jay Z was from Trenton too.
Yeah. Okay.
And so I think I fell in love with hip hop honestly when I heard. Wait, let these helicopters go by.
Oh, okay.
Um, I fell in hip hop when Dougie Fresh came out with what was it? Get Fresh Crew.
Oh, yeah.
Tell him. Man.
That was it.
Um, but I used to listen to Mantronics.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Dag. Yeah, that was when I fell in love with hip hop when he came out with that. The
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
that when he started doing the beatbox, I was like, damn, this is it right here.
Right.
Before that, I had heard pieces of hip hop. It was
Mm-hmm.
I heard Rock Box. My cousin turned me on to Rock Box one
Yeah.
time when you still could play it in a jukebox.
Yep.
I
Yep.
heard that. I was like, that made me know I was gonna do something in hip hop. I didn't know
Mm-hmm.
what it was gonna be, but I knew I was gonna do something.
Yeah.
When I heard Mantronics, I wanted to produce.
Mm.
When I heard Dougie Fresh, I wanted to perform.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then I was always a fan of KRS One.
Absolutely.
KRS One just made me feel like he just made me stay on top of, being like, I don't know, just like direct,
Right.
like be direct. You know
Mm-hmm.
what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And now my story with hip hop is kind of interesting because my dad was a pastor.
Mm-hmm.
So none of these songs would be playing in my house ever, ever.
Oh
I
my
mean,
goodness.
like not ever, not ever. It wouldn't be accidentally playing in my house. But in the way I lived in New Jersey was like my next door neighbor was he probably is like 10 years older than me or something like
Mm-hmm.
that.
Mm-hmm.
And he had all of the boxes, the boom boxes.
Right.
He wore all the gear, everything that was hip hop, he was.
Mm-hmm.
And so any new song came out, he was already onto it, and he was a DJ, so he did like mixtapes,
Yeah.
a real mixtape on the
Mm-hmm.
tape.
Crazy.
So he would make these tapes, right? And so um, I was a very what's the word? I was very resourceful when I was a kid.
Okay.
I would figure out ways to get things that I wanted.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't steal or anything. I would like work, but I was very resourceful. Like I would see it. If I saw it in my head, it was mine. That's it. So
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
um, he would always be like, "Hey man, I'm getting ready to get another box. You want to buy this one?" And I'm like, "I can't buy a box from this dude. Like, where am I gonna turn this shit in my house? My dad would go crazy."
Mm-hmm.
So I
Mm-hmm.
was like, "No, I can see that. I could, I should have a box by now. I could play light music or something. It looked like they wanted to bump, but I couldn't do that."
Right. I get it. I
So
get it.
anyway, I figured out we did some kind of trade, and I got this box. And in the way that it was back in the day, it's like it was easy to have a record player somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
Record players were everywhere, and that's how
Yep.
they sold it. It was like a cassette tape and vinyl. Um, I think my first vinyl was actually Whitney Houston. So
Really?
it wasn't even hip hop. And I think everything coming out at this time was like Whitney Houston was big.
Yep.
Um, I had Black Uhuru,
Black Uhuru. Yep. Yep.
and I had who else? It was Dougie Fresh.
Okay.
So I had these three records, and I would just be spinning these records back and forth. But I had the mixtapes and everything, and when DJ Red Alert was coming on the radio, I could tune in late at night and hear him. Um,
Mm-hmm.
uh, Philadelphia, I could tune in and hear that stuff. I could hear
Mm-hmm.
all of these stations, and so I was just building my hip hop like that. I didn't ever think that I would actually be in hip hop until I know that was very long winded, but
It's
the day
okay.
I fell in hip hop was when Crush Groove came out. Yeah, that wrapped it up
Movie.
because it was like I could see how I could be in it.
Okay. I understand that part. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Crush Groove. What a movie. And it was
See,
so, looking back on it now, I hate to say it was corny. It was a corny movie, at least to me back then, but I understood what it was trying to do. Then what was it? It was also Beat Street, Break In, all of those movies that were coming out trying to capitalize and bring other cultures into who we were as a people.
so
Um,
B Street solidified me as a graffiti artist.
Now that I absolutely can see. Absolutely. Yep.
Yeah, just that was just a much more quieter life in those days. We didn't talk about that part.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. But you're an artist. You're a graffiti artist. And
Yeah,
and
but it
and
wasn't. It wasn't. that wasn't when you could talk about being a graffiti artist, is what I'm
No,
saying.
of
Like,
course not. No, you couldn't
it's
talk.
like if you're doing it, which I was, you just kind of was quiet with it. You didn't
Right.
really, you know what I'm saying? You don't really talk about. And
Mm-mm.
that was just another part of the hip hop. But that part of hip hop is really, that's how I actually got into hip hop as a graffiti artist.
Mm-hmm.
To
Mm-hmm.
my, from my perspective. And later
Yeah.
on, people heard me in the band. That would have been the first time they heard me doing that. But
Right.
um, when you say what inspired me, I'm like, I think about it now. All of the stuff you don't think about, there's nothing that's is contributing to who you are. It's like
Right.
I would, if there was an MC,
Yeah.
a hot MC, and they were going to battle somewhere, I would
Mhm.
most times show up at that battle.
Mm.
I wasn't going to do any MCing, but I just wanted to hear who was hot. So I
Right.
always knew where these battles were, and I followed these battles. I would show
Mhm.
up just because you like, oh, he's dope. I want to see if he go against this dude, and it would be kind of bubbling on the
Mm-hmm.
in the hood and around areas, and then you like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, they're gonna be over here. So you show up at this battle, no advertisement, nothing, and I would kind of follow the artist that way,
Right.
you know.
That's crazy. And now here you have the advent of social media and being able to, like you said, being able to connect where we didn't have to drive and meet each other and stuff like that to do this interview, this podcast. And here we are with all of this technology. So honestly, if someone really, really wanted to get into hip hop and get into music and capitalize on all of the things that I've been talking with all of you all about, from merch to creating your own brands, or like you said, liquor or gum or shoes or clothing or whatever. Now is as good as time as any to actually make that happen for yourself. And you really honestly don't have to go through a record label to do it. It would be great if you could get that support, right? But from what I'm hearing from everyone is this is a good time. And it doesn't matter really your age, because art doesn't even look at that. It's just, the quality of the individual itself and what you're bringing to the table. So,
Yeah, you got to be able to do um, follow directions.
okay,
um,
that part. Yeah.
just think of it. I always say the easiest way. I won't say the easiest way, but the beginning, the middle, and the end.
Mm.
And so everything, there's a beginning and a middle and an end. So with all of these formats and ways to get in it, you got to figure out what you want to do.
Yep.
Um, by the time you figure out what you want to do, you're in the middle. That is the
Mm.
middle. So there, you don't have to worry about the middle. And then you got to figure out, like, how am I going to get out of this, and what do I want to do with it? Because in this age, everything escalates very fast. It's
Mm.
1 minute to just be doing something, and the
Yep.
next minute have too much of it,
Mm. Come on.
right?
You're
And
right.
so when you have too much of it, you have to think of an exit. And with all of the ideas, that's the way I think about ideas. It's like from Neon Parks to Prophet Heart to Granola Brown,
Mm-hmm.
different things and that I've worked on. It's like, how do I close this? How do I
Yeah.
ultimately I'm making this so that I can sell it to somebody. Ultimately,
Right.
I'm making this so that
Right.
somebody will listen to it.
Mm-hmm.
Ultimately, I want to do this with it. And so that's how I think about the stuff that I'm doing. It's like, oh, it's taking you a long time to do such and such. I'm like, there's so many different parts and I'm doing all the parts.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
I can wait for, the final of what it brings back to me. You know what
Yeah.
I'm saying? So like the way that I've worked in my life with Arrested Development and other projects is what is giving me the content to be able to share for these interviews. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
The
Absolutely.
content from my life. So I don't look at it and go, oh, I made a mistake and this was a good time and that was a bad time. The times are still going,
Right.
like it's just what are you gonna do now? Like you're in a position now where you can have the knowledge of what not to do and what to
Right.
do. What are
Exactly.
you gonna do?
Yep. Okay.
You know
Right.
what I mean?
Yeah.
So in the end, it's like, what are you gonna do? And that's where I think, that's where I am now. So it's like I feel like, well, we're in about to be in November, which is Scorpio Sag season for me.
We're in that
So
season, yeah.
I feel like it's a good time. I feel
Mm-hmm.
like it's a good time. I feel like it's a good time just for me. I mean, it's somewhat of an interesting time globally, but
Mm-hmm.
just for me personally,
Right.
in these moments, I won't say I shine, but there is some clarity that sparks me as an artist.
Okay.
It's like, well, what can I say to all of this stuff that I'm feeling without going under? You know what
Mm-hmm.
I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Like, what can I do? And then, as an artist and a creative, you start writing, you start
Right.
painting,
Right.
you start doing something. Just
Mm-hmm.
don't be what's the word? Either you building or you destroying. Just don't destroy
Mm-hmm.
anything. Continue
Come
to build. Like,
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, this was so good. Man, I could sit here and talk to you all day, but our hour is almost up. So listen, Rasa Don, thank you so much for taking some time to come and hang out with us here in the Brownstone today. We do appreciate you. Um, Listen, stick around for about 3 minutes after we wrap this up. I definitely want to chat with you for a hot second. But let me go ahead and put this back up here where people can find you on social media at Rasa Don. And guys, go ahead and follow him as he as he continues to share more of his artwork and things like that he's doing, most definitely. And we know we're going to see you all over the place as we always do. So once again, ladies and gentlemen, I want to say thank you again to this gentleman right here. This is Rasa Don himself. Yes, love the photos. Listen, if you want a copy of this upcoming issue of Brownstone Living Magazine, Rasa Don is in the issue. Ishi is in the issue. We've got Speech. We've got, let's see, Cool DJ Red Alert and the Original Violators. We got so many other artists that are a part of this particular issue. I'm so excited and honored that you would take time out to hang out with me here in the Brownstone. I could go on, but stick around. You guys, thank you for hanging out with us here, myself and Rasa Don from Arrested Development and the Brownstone, where you can get all the news and information that you can use, Cityscape Radio, where you can listen to the podcasters and the air personalities from our network, as well as Brownstone Living Magazine. Listen, there's more coming your way for the anniversary of Brownstone Living Magazine as well. Get ready for that. Until then, we'll see you around.
Yeah.